Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our TNA show for the week. Let's jump right into it. First we're going to start off with the so-so portions of the show. Basically the stuff that wasn't bad, wasn't good, was just there. We're going to start off with a thing that's a pet peeve of mine, and if you've watched the show for any length of time you know it. The opening, talking, endless segment. We got 20 minutes of MVP, Magnus, Abyss, Samoa Joe, and Eric Young, all to set up matches for this week and next week as well. I'm so tired of this. This is such a crutch to both TNA and WWE. Better writing gets you away from having to do this every week. Start off the show, give us a change. Put this in segment 3. Start off the show with a wrestling match. Why not? I do remember a little bit ago, it was the tagline for Impact Wrestling was Wrestling Matters, so prove it to us. Anyway, another thing sets up, like I said, a Fatal 4-Way next week for the title. Also sets up Samoa Joe versus Eric Young later in the night. Just a boring segment overall. Again, too contrived. Too many times it's been used. It's the same thing over and over again. And I'm so tired of this. Just give me something different. I had hoped when they switched from the Dixie Carter running the company to Magnus running the company that we would see a little bit of change in what goes on. But obviously, the same format just with a better talker. Now next up on the so-so segments, we had the in-ring, I guess you could say, confrontation, explanation between Angelina Love and Velvet Sky as to Angelina telling Velvet that she's gone soft. The reason that she attacked Madison Rayne is because, Madison didn't agree to go with them, thus putting in the seed of doubt that the recently reunited beautiful people will be breaking up rather shortly into their reunion. To me, it was okay. Angelina, in my opinion, has never been a great talker. Her strength has always been in her in-ring talent and her meanness, which we've seen a little bit of. She was a little bit mean in this. I think they need to play to that more, how mean she could be and how, for lack of a better word, bitchy she could be. But, it's just, the only reason I thought this was so-so is Angelina's not the greatest talker. Now let's go on to the bad segments of the night. I've lumped everything into one nice little package here, and we're calling it The Hunt for Willow. It was absolutely ridiculous. We get to see Rockstar Spud and Ethan Carter III, who, don't get me wrong, played it up well in their parts, out in the wooded area, I'm guessing, of North Carolina, looking for Willow, looking in some look like rundown abandoned shacks, which of course they find him in one, which kind of surprising because Jeff Hardy's made enough money in his career that he could have a nicer house in the rundown shacks. As a matter of fact, I think I've seen his house before, even the one after the fire, and I've seen that he's had a nicer house than this. I don't know if maybe this is supposed to be on the Hardy property somewhere, or maybe this is where Hardy supposedly grew up. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. The whole Willow character, to me, is like they're letting someone's ego, being Jeff Hardy, dictate what he wants to do in the company. We all know that that's not a good idea. Maybe they're letting him hang himself, letting him, go ahead, do what you want, see if it gets over. And if not, oh well. But it's just, it's too much of the 97 Sting, 96 Sting. Then you mix in the Blair Witch Project type stuff like tonight with the bad horror. And then when he actually wrestles, he's just Jeff Hardy with a mask. So to me, it's the whole package of the Willow character is bad, and until I see otherwise from him, he'll constantly be in the bad segments of the battle. Now next up, we're going to go into the question of the week. We'll go with our question of the week from last week. The question was, out of the two newer entries into TNA, Sonata and Tigre Uno, who's going to have the biggest impact? No pun intended. Here's some answers from our friends. From Silver84, both are really good, but Tigre Uno I think will have more of an impact because he's signed to a TNA and will be seen more, whereas Sonata still wrestles with Wrestle One. Valid points there. Next is from our friend Jacob Bradley 67. About the question of the week, I agree with Silver84 because Tigre is phenomenal in the ring. He will get over, and I see an X Division championship in his future. Here's why I brought this up. When I see both of these guys, and I've been a long time wrestling fan, Tigre Uno reminds me of when I initially seen Rey Mysterio Jr., who is now Rey Mysterio. He has that same kind of excitement and that same kind of innovation that I seen in Rey Mysterio all the way back in the mid-90s. Now, I know he's been wrestling for a good amount of time. In Mexico, I've heard him as Extreme Tiger. I've heard him referenced. I don't watch much Lucha Libre, Mexican wrestling, basically for two reasons. I don't have access to it as much as American and Japanese wrestling, which I seem to be able to get anywhere I want. Also, the language barrier and the style barrier hurts it a little bit. If they had a Lucha Libre show with American announcers, and I'm not talking about the old MTV show either, I'm talking about actual Lucha Libre, I might be able to get into it and understand the psychology, because it is a different psychology. So I haven't seen any of him prior to his TNA. He may be the most impressive. To me, he's the most impressive X Division wrestler or cruiserweight wrestler that I've seen since I first seen The Amazing Red. And that's to me, he's the next Rey Mysterio. And that's high praise, because Rey Mysterio is one of the greatest lightweight, cruiserweight, whatever you want to call it, wrestlers of all time. Now, on the flip side, Sonata, to me, again, much like Tigre Uno, he reminds me of, and I know they're doing it on purpose, he reminds me of a young, great Muta. When I first saw Muta back in the late 80s in the NWA in Florida Championship Wrestling, the great Muta was a lot like this. The crispness of the moves, the fact that both of these guys, and Sonata, in my opinion, a little more than Tigre Uno pulls you in with his moves. Sonata has that it factor that draws you into him, that he demands to be seen. Like, something about him makes you want to watch him. And it's hard to quantify, exactly what that is, other than he is an amazing talent who reminds me of the great Muta. That's why I brought up this question. I see amazing futures for both of them. I think that our friends are right, Silver 84 and Jacob Bradley 67, that Tigre Uno, because of the exposure factor, will probably have a higher impact. However, Sonata, if he's like the great Muta, where we see him once, twice a year, once every couple of years, he can have just the same impact as the great Muta has had in this country. There's a lot of people that in America that have seen the few times that Muta's come to America and think of him as an amazing talent and love the great Muta. I have plenty of friends that watch no Japanese wrestling but love the great Muta. And that's what I see in Sonata. That's why I kind of ignored the Wrestle One portion a bit, but I see their point, and I agree that Tigre Uno, because of the television time, I think will be the bigger star. But I think both of them could be major stars. If I were TNA, I'd be begging Wrestle One to let them have Sonata as much as they could. Now that brings you into our question of the week for this week. It's a simple question. What made you start watching TNA? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on, or leave us a comment right down there in the comments. That was a little bit botched up there. Sometimes I stumble over my own words, but you know what to do. Put the comments down there. We'll talk about it next week. We'll bring up what you guys think, what I think. We'll bring it all to discussion. Now let's go into the good segments of the show. First off, we have Just the Wolves versus Abyss and Magnus. A decent match. I think they haven't allowed the American Wolves to break out in a great match as of yet. The best was their three-way tag match. I think it was last week or the week before. But I think as the more and more that the wider audience gets to see of the Wolves, of Davey Richards, of Eddie Edwards, the more that they're going to break out and become huge stars in TNA, just like they did in Ring of Honor. Next up is the Bully Ray, Bobby Roode table fight. I don't know, it wasn't a match. Surprisingly, Bobby Roode gets the upper hand. I would assume this is going to lead to a tables match at some point, or some sort of match. It intrigues me because of the people involved. It intrigues me because we have two of the better talkers in TNA, Bully Ray and Bobby Roode, two great workers. And I actually enjoyed their feud that they had when Bully Ray won the World Championship from Bobby... Or no, it wasn't. Was it Bobby Roode? They had a mini feud about a year and a half ago. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was over the TNA title, with Bully Ray eventually winning it, I believe from Bobby Roode. If not, he won it from Aries. It was something like that. It was during the turn from Bully Ray from face to heel and joining the Aces and Eights. But anyway, I digress. Anytime that these two get into the ring or get into a verbal battle with each other, it's always a good segment. And like we've seen here, it didn't have to be a match to be impressive. Now the next up was a match that thoroughly impressed me. Angelina Love versus Madison Rayne. Madison has improved so much from, and what got me thinking about it was the Beautiful People stuff. From the time that she started in the Beautiful People to now, it's night and day how much better of a wrestler she is. Angelina Love, I always thought out of the Beautiful People, all four of them, was the best wrestler, and she proves it again and again. This was good. We had Velvet Sky come out, cost Madison the match, which leads us to have the Beautiful People as heels, as they should be. Angelina picks up the win. A well put together match, a well thought out angle, well thought out interference, keeps us going for the next show, keeps us building this feud further down the line. Next up, we had Samoa Joe versus Eric Young. What can I say? I thoroughly enjoyed this. This was a match to remind some of us fans that Eric Young, other than being just a comedy guy, is actually a damn good wrestler. He is as good as there is in the ring. He's kind of been pigeonholed, and he said some of it earlier in the night with the stupid gimmicks that they've given him. And he's done, not that they were bad, but he's excelled in everything they had, whether it be the superhero, or the guy that was paranoid he was losing his job, or whatever other incarnation of Eric Young they've had, he's excelled in. And I like that he's finally getting his due with someone like Samoa Joe. We see the ending where Joe's got him in the rear naked choke, and he's laying on Joe, and Joe's shoulders are down, but the ref counts the knockout, or the ref pays more attention to Eric Young going unconscious, then he does Joe's shoulders, which we see when Earl Hebner, when Earl Hebner comes out, and I think it's Brian Hebner's son, he tells him, Joe's shoulders were down the whole time, and it could have been a 3 count, thus giving us fans at home that, wow, Eric Young did that on purpose. He sacrificed getting choked out to get the win, which makes him a more serious contender, which makes him believable in the 4-way championship match. Now, next up is what I believe right now to be the best feud in TNA, James Storm versus Gunner. And I know I had some issues with the father thing last week. And again, I know I was probably one of the few. But again, we get a nice hardcore style, street fight style match between the two. The violence picks up. These guys go at it. Absolutely awesome. I think James Storm needs whatever award they want to give him for this. I don't know what you would get for it. But he needs some recognition from taking a guy like Gunner, who was floundering in the mid-card, and turning him into a bona fide main event wrestler in TNA. I mean, say what you will about Gunner. I personally am not a fan of his ever since the $5 wrestling stuff he said. However, you cannot deny that he has not elevated himself to main event status, and he absolutely has, with the help of James Storm, who has got him over as being an equal to James Storm, which is saying a lot in a company that James Storm has done everything. Gunner picks up the win, gets some vengeance for the attack on his father the week before, wraps everything else in a nice tidy bow. I do believe that they'll keep this going. They've made it way too personal for this to just be the blow-off, although stranger things have happened in TNA. But now we're going to go into our ratings for the week. We have a 1 to 5 scale. If you've seen the show before, you know what this is about. 1 is the worst, 5 is the best. 1's a Garrett Bischoff, 2's a Jesse Goddard, 3's a James Storm, 4's a Christopher Daniels, 5's a Bobby Roode. I'm giving this show a 4, a Christopher Daniels. A lot of stuff to like, very little I didn't like, which is the way it should be. I thought this was a very solid show. Other than some minor improvements on it, it's wasting 20 to 25 minutes on a talking segment and a wrestling show that's only 2 hours long. Could improve on that. WWE gets away with it because they have 6, 7, 8 hours of TV wrestling on every week. They can have a half hour of talk and it doesn't matter because you still got 7.5 to fill. You do 20 minutes out of a 2-hour show, 20, 25 minutes. With commercials, that's a quarter of your show that's gone. That you could have had Kenny King, who showed up and didn't get a match that night. You could have had Christopher Daniels and Kazarian wrestle. Austin Aries, Sonata, Tigre Uno. I mean, their roster is loaded with amazing talent that have to sit the sidelines for these long diatribes. That's just my opinion. That's why it's not a 5 and it's a 4. Christopher Daniels giving it a 4 all the way. Very enjoyable show. Need a little bit more to push it over the top. Now, before we go, I wanted to mention something, and I brought this up on our WWE show if you watch both. I know some people only watch TNA show because they only watch TNA and vice versa. There seems to be something going on with YouTube where they're not wanting to promote our show as much as they have. In the last week, our views have taken a serious hit. And I don't think it's because you guys have stopped wanting to watch what I do or what we do when Gary's here. I think it's something that YouTube is not promoting for us. It just took us straight, it went to a cliff and dove down. Now, to counteract that, what I'm going to ask you guys to do, and I said it on our WWE show, I'll say it here, I don't consider you guys fans of the show, I consider you friends with the show. I mean, I'm not above you guys a lot of people on here have their own shows, and I've watched them, and they're excellent. I just like to have these conversations and hopefully spark conversation with you guys. I love the interaction when we do the question of the week. That's why it's here. I love to hear what you guys think. I love, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me. I love sparking that conversation. And it frustrates me that we have a certain amount of people that are subscribed to our show. However, it seems to be a tenth of that people are actually being told that we have a new show, if you follow what I'm saying, as far as the views. So here's what I'm asking. If you could, it's very simple. You don't have to if you don't want to. When you watch the show, if you like what I do, or if you like what we do when Gary's here, click on the like button. Go down to where it says, that's easiest thing. If you don't want to do the bare minimum, which is cool, you don't have to do any of this. I'm just asking as a favor. Click the like button. Put some comments down there if you want to comment on anything. It doesn't have to be the question of the week. It could be other segments, other things. Don't even have to be show related. You could just say, hey, you guys are awesome. Whatever you want to say, or you guys suck. Put comments in. And also, if you could, share this. Share it on your Twitter, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, wherever you do social media. Take it and share this with other people you think might like our show as well. Because YouTube isn't doing that. We're asking that our friends do that for us. That way we can build the show. The more we can build the show, the more money comes in, the more money we can put into the show. I can tell you with absolute certainty, every bit of money that we've made off of the show has went back into the show. The first check we cut, we bought a better camera. And since then, the second check, we bought a tripod. We bought, our next goal is to get better lighting. Maybe a new couch, because this one's pretty old. But, all kinds of stuff that's going to improve the show is what we use the money that we get making the show. Every bit of money we get from the show, we pour back into the show to make it better for us and better for you guys. But if you could just do that, I would really appreciate that. We would appreciate it a lot. Again, the easiest thing, just hit the like button. Anything else you want to do other than that, we'd appreciate as well. But basically, that's all I have to say about this. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.